we can have co-presenters for this part of the program, and they are going to be talking on one of the favorite topics here at WPA, and that's exercise. So if you are not involved in exercise, we're going to keep encouraging you to get involved. We have plenty of resources on our website, wiparkinson.org. But we have a couple of folks here today to talk a little bit more about how important that is. We have Nathan Seitz, who's a physical therapist at Aurora BayCare Medical Center. He recently completed LSVT Big certification and has informal training in power as well. Nate enjoys working with folks with Parkinson's and helping find ways to improve their daily function. Along with Nathan will be Junius Ho, is a personal trainer at Aurora BayCare Sports Medicine. She's co-founder of the Mobile and Fit class, a power-based exercise class for people with Parkinson's. This class primarily serves interested individuals in Northeast Wisconsin. Nathan and Junius, welcome.
Well, hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our presentation. So to begin, I'm actually gonna have Nate start.
Cool. All right, I'll do that. So our presentation is focusing on mindfulness with Parkinson's exercise, and we're gonna go through a couple different things. But first thing I want to do is just make a plug for the value of physical therapy for persons who have Parkinson's. So this is some information that's actually from the Choose PT website, which is kind of the patient-facing division for the American Physical Therapy Association. And basically what they're saying is that everyone who has Parkinson's is affected differently, but that almost everyone would benefit from at some point having an evaluation by a physical therapist who is familiar with Parkinson's. And benefits for what we work on with therapy include everything from just generally improving fitness and strength and flexibility, to working on strategies for doing everyday tasks, kind of your activities of daily living, and safety with standing, changing directions, improving fluidity and pace of movement, and overall just meeting your activity goals, helping you as the person get back to doing the things that you want to do and doing so safely and effectively. So with that, I have just a report off of a study here that was recently published that looked at 3 different groups, a group that did home exercises, a group that did individualized physical therapy, and a group that did a group exercise class. And so within all 3 of those groups, what the study did was it targeted the physical restrictions that those people had, looked at their challenges with movement, looked at the limits of stability for those people, their balance, and anticipated adjustments for posture and balance again, and decreased movement amplitude, or that the freezing, the small movements, the things that we work on a lot when we're working with people with Parkinson's, and then of course walking. So within this study, they had 6 different stations, as they call them, for exercises, or 6 different focuses within each of those groups, including Tai Chi-based movements, boxing, lunges, kayaking, an agility course, and Pilates. And they implemented those sorts of things into all 3 of those groups. With each activity was progressed by changing the sensory integration, or changing what you see, or changing what you feel, making the patient work more independently, increasing the speed of it, increasing the resistance of it, or adding additional mental or physical tasks. So some of you who've had physical therapy before may have had this last one, where the therapist or the person that you're working with makes you count backwards by 3 from 100, or hold like a cup of water when you're doing an otherwise familiar task, to try and increase the focus that you have to do and increase the challenge. So here's just a little more detail on each of the groups within that. So the home exercise group met once with a PT to kind of get their individual program, and that program was based on what the patient could safely conduct at home, versus the individualized PT group met with a PT 3 times a week for 4 weeks. And then the group exercise class met 3 times a week with a group and an exercise instructor, who in this case was a PT, again for 4 weeks. And what they found, what they were looking at was a measurement test or a physical performance test where they looked at writing, simulated eating, getting a jacket on and off, picking a penny up from the floor, performing a turn in place, and walking about 50 feet. And they created a kind of an aggregated score from these tasks. And what they found is that for this population, it was the individual PT group, the group that met with a PT on their own 3 times a week, that saw the greatest clinically significant improvements on that test, on those 7 items. So real specifically, the group that met with PT individually saw the most improvements in function, depression, in terms of just their mental well-being, and then their balance. Interestingly, the group exercise class saw the most improvement of any groups in gait measures, including how many freezing episodes they had, how quickly they were stepping, the arm swing that they had with walking, as well as the walking while multitasking, or that, walking while holding the cup of water or having some other secondary task that they had to perform. So this kind of gives a good plug for working with individualized PT as being kind of a great opener for that and a way to start to help to improve where you're at physically. And then group exercise too, having value in helping with some of those gait things and being a great way to maintain how you're doing, as Parkinson's disease being something that's degenerative over time, that group exercise can be a great way to try and help keep up what you're doing and not have your activity fall off. So this is another one that gets into more what we're going to talk about and what Junius will demonstrate a little bit, or that mindfulness piece within the exercise, or being aware of what you're doing. So this study looked at a completion of a mindfulness yoga program and compared it with stretching and resistance training exercises, things that you typically think of when you think of an exercise class. And they looked at this in a group of people with Parkinson's. For their measure that they looked at is they used something called the Hospital Anxiety and Depression Scale. And so they're specifically looking at some of those non-motor things that affect us with Parkinson's. So our state of mind and how we're feeling. So in this group, in this study, there were 2 groups. Both groups had 8 weeks of intervention. The yoga group had 8 weeks of 90-minute sessions once a week with a leader. They would go through various different yoga positions and mindfulness tasks. And then they also would, twice a week at home, do about 20 minutes of activity on their own. The stretching and resistance training group also met for 8 weeks. Their sessions were a little bit shorter, with their focus being less on that kind of ease and mindfulness and more on physically doing the strength and the resistance training for those 60 minutes. And then they also had twice a week of home practice on their own. They looked at how the people that were participating in the study did at the start of the study at 8 weeks, so immediately following the completion of these programs, as well as 20 weeks, so 3 months after they had stopped doing any of either of the exercise programs formally. And what they found, that the yoga group was clinically superior to that strength, that exercise group, in terms of managing the anxiety and the depression that they had with their condition. They also found, through some of their secondary things that they measured, that the yoga group was as effective as the strength and resistance training group at improving some of the motor dysfunction and mobility issues that those people would have. So now I'm going to pass over to Junius to talk a little bit more about kind of the mindfulness and exercise and some of the things that they do within the group exercise program.
Well, thank you, Nate. There was some very informational, very good information to share with you all. And again, my name is Junius. I'm one of the personal trainer here at Aurora BayCare Sports Medicine, and I'm one of the instructors here who lead the mobile infant class, and that is a class specifically for people with Parkinson's. So I'm going to go a little bit more into the actual workings of mindfulness and exercise for today. So starting off with mindfulness, this seems to be a buzzword, especially during the last couple of months with the pandemic, on how we might want to enhance our overall living to be healthy, to be happier, and to be a lot more at ease. So based on the dictionary definition, it means the state or quality of being mindful and being non-judgmental with one's heightened awareness. So from pretty much what it means in the exercise setting is whenever you want to go through a movement pattern or do certain things, you want to give it a little bit more thought before you actually go forward with it. I know this sounds kind of simple and straightforward, but a lot of times for people with Parkinson's, as Parkinson's is a neurological disease, it can be very challenging to connect what you would like to do and then have your body do it at the same time. So by being able to make that connection, it does make the movement a lot more meaningful and also help the person to experience the movement a little bit different and actually appreciate those movements a lot better. So just a little snippet of our class. So like I mentioned, the class itself is for people with Parkinson. And currently with our format, it's being held twice a week and led by Power certified instructors. And before you participate, we do require a consultation. So that way you and I can sit down with my coworkers and sit down and discuss a little bit more about your needs and also talk to you about what we can offer and assist you with. And then right now, again, because of COVID precautions, we are going virtual, but we have a pretty good following since we were reactivated at the beginning of August. So the goal of the class is to assist participants to maintain independence for the active daily living, kind of like what Nate was saying. The goal is for us to assist you so that way you can continue to do the things that you like to do on your own with minimal assistance, either with the person or with like prep. And the foundation of the class is based a lot from the LSPT program and the Power program, and we do a lot of repetition throughout the class. And exercise and purposeful activity throughout the day do require a lot of thoughts to make things happen. Like I mentioned before, a lot of the times when we want to do something, most of the movement I actually learn from habits. So when you want to go ahead and do something, more than likely we'll be able to perform it off the bat. But for people with Parkinson's, because there is a disconnection between what your mind wants to do and between your motor neurons. So we always need to take a few extra steps and reinforcement in order to make those movements happen. So as an example, one of the things that I frequently like to do is to change up directions. So whenever we want to move forward, again, it is something that we do on a daily basis. Either we're walking, reaching down, reaching up. But a lot of times with people with Parkinson, we have to literally get them ready with a good stance. So that way they have a good base before they can begin the movement. And then literally we'll have to remind them, all right, we're going to step forward with your right foot or left, again, depending on which direction we're starting off with. How we want to practice the weight shift from one foot to the other, and then add on with other movement as we continue to make the task a little bit more challenging. And another example is for like in a squat position. Now, if we apply it to standing up and sitting down, or simply as sitting down in a chair, that is a motion that we need to do on a daily basis from eating a meal, sitting down to rest, sitting down, watch TV, getting up and reach for something. So with that being said, how are we going to get ourselves all ready for the movement? So from the start, again, if we're starting with a standing position, we want to make sure the person has a good base, a good wide base. And then they're going to initiate the movement by shifting the hips back, bending at the knee, finding that balance, which is also very crucial for people with Parkinson's, before they actually settle down on this squat position to what they feel comfortable. And they will be able to have the strength to hold the position and at the same time be able to get back up to a standing position. Or if we're going to have a person starting off from a seated position, how are they positioning themselves with good posture to start with, and then finding the strength, finding the momentum to some extent, so that way they can get a good base, shift the weights, and then using the legs, hopefully not so much with the arms, but that is always allowed, in order to stand up more effectively. So there's just a lot of little components that we emphasize throughout the class. And we do feel like sometimes we mumble a lot to get a lot of reminders out there. But at the end of the day, again, the goal of us is to help people with Parkinson's to be to find that better connection, so that way they can do things more at ease. And hopefully somewhere down the road, with minimal thoughts, they can just get up and do it right away. All right, so here comes the exciting part. Let's put that into practice, all right? So for the feel free to participate or observe. So the following items that we can do can be performed either in a standing position or in a seated position. So make sure you find a position that you're comfortable with, okay? And then also make sure that if you're going to perform in a standing position, there's no clutter around you. So that way, in case we accidentally step over something or trip over something, we're not going to trip and fall. We want to make sure everything is nice and safe. And if you're not sure, always have a supporting prop. It could be a chair, it could be somebody you can rely on, it could be a countertop, tabletop. So that way, if you need the extra point of balance, it's available for you. Okay, the first thing we are going to do is a very simple breathing exercise. Okay, so I'm going to actually modify my screen and I'm going to back up a little bit so you can see my body a little bit better. So like I said, you can perform this exercise in either a standing or seated position. Okay, so if you're going to be standing, I know you might not be able to see my feet right now, but we definitely want to have a good wide base. And by means of a wide base is you want to keep your legs at about your hip width a little bit wider, okay? So you feel nice and sturdy, okay? You want to keep your weight equally distributed between your right foot and your left foot. Now, if you're going to be in a seated position, you might not want to sit all the way in the back where it's super comfy. You want to sit at about the midway of the chair. Keep your feet nice and grounded, all right? And nice and supported, all right? If you need to, and if you didn't have handles by your chair, feel free to just easily rest your arms right there so you can keep your shoulders nice and relaxed, okay? So with the first exercise we're gonna practice, like I said, we're gonna start out with some breathing, which is super important. With breathing, not only it is something that is central for living, but at the same time, it can always help us to be a little bit more mindful of how the air is moving through our body and also pay attention to how we are moving along with the breaths, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off with a few normal breaths as if how you would normally breathe. All right, slowly breathe in through your nose. And you can breathe out through your nose or through your mouth. Breathe in. And breathe out. Now, what I would like you to do is placing one hand along your rib cage, all right, about the center of your chest. And with your other hand, again, it doesn't matter left or right, you're gonna put it along your belly, okay? So what I would like you to try is, as we breathe in, try to push your hands away from you on the chest and onto your belly, the best you can. And again, it might take a few tries for you to get it, but don't worry if you don't get it, but at least hopefully this will be a good place for us to find the connection and be able to breathe a lot more effectively, okay? So whenever you're ready, we're gonna slowly breathe into your hands. Expand, expand, expand. And breathe out, slowly breathe away from your hands as if everything is sinking in. Slowly breathe into your hands. Expand, expand, expand. Keep yourself nice and tall. And as you breathe out, slowly let the hands sink back down. Slowly breathe in, maintaining a tall posture, as if you have a string holding the top of your head connected to the ceiling. And slowly breathe out, letting your hands sink in. And when you breathe in, keep yourself nice and tall, lifting your chest, keeping your shoulder nice and tall, stack over your hips. And as you breathe out, keep that shoulder down, keep yourself nice and grounded, either through your feet or in a standing position. All right, let's return to our regular breaths, okay? Let's do a few. How did that go for you? Is that a slightly different sensation? For some, this could feel like a new world, partly because all of a sudden we're actually getting a little bit more air into the system and we have a little bit more clarity, and it also brings a sense of calm. Now, for some of you, you might struggle a little bit with this exercise, that's okay. And that's why we try it today and practice, okay? There is no right or wrong way to breathe, but we all have a preferred way to breathe. But in order for us to breathe properly, there are specific channels that we address in the exercise class, or sometimes too in physical therapy, so we can help you to breathe more efficiently to what your needs are, okay? Now we're gonna try one more breathing pattern. It's gonna be a little bit more challenging, so do the best you can, okay? So we're gonna breathe from a count of 1 to 10. Now you may ask, how are we even gonna do it? But we're actually gonna break it down into the breathe in, the inhalation, and the breathe out, the exhalation with a slight pause in the middle, okay? So I'm gonna explain how it's gonna work and we're gonna slowly put it into practice, okay? So what I would like you to try is, as we breathe in, we wanna breathe in a count of 4. So it's gonna be breathe in, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna pause at 5, really quick. And then we're gonna slowly let the air leak out like a balloon from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay? Now, no worries, I'm gonna cue you through. Do the best you can. Now, the goal is not for you to hyperventilate, so take a little bit, and if this pattern doesn't work for you, that's fine. So you may have a little bit more vacation where we might have a slightly longer breath in, and we could have a slightly longer or shorter breathe out, okay? Are you guys all ready? Let's give that a try. So again, let's establish our position again. If you're standing nice and tall, feet at about your shoulder width, slight bend in the knee to offset the pressure off the low back. And if you're seated along the middle of the chair, sitting nice and tall, shoulder over your hips. All right. Again, if you feel you want to get that visual, that physical sensation of the breath, keep the hand on the chest and the belly again. Okay. All right. Let's give it a shot. Here's 3, 2, and 1. Breathe in 2, 3, 4. Pause at 5. Breathe out at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Breathe in through your nose, 2, 3, 4. Hold at 5. Breathe out, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Pause at 5. Breathe out at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's try it one more time. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold at 5. Breathe out at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's return to your normal breathing pattern. How did that go for you? Now this will feel a little bit different compared to before. Could be a little bit more intense for some of you, but definitely you will feel that benefit of air. And you have to think the thought through, partly because with specific breathing practices, it helps you to shift your focus on how you want to work your inhalation, as in you breathe in, and your exhalation, you'll breathe out a little bit more effectively. All right, now I think we have a little bit more time. We're gonna try one more thing. So again, feel free to be in a standing position or seated. I'm gonna back up a little bit more so that we can see my feet, hopefully. All right, so hopefully I'm not getting too small on my screen right there. All right, all right. So what I would like you to do is we're gonna keep our feet nice and wide. And again, if you're in a seated position, you can do the same thing with good support on the chair, again, preferably the middle of the chair, okay? So what I would like you to do is we're gonna shift your weight a little bit more to your right. Now we're still balancing with the help of the other, but you should feel more weight or heaviness just on one side. How's that going for you? All right. And then we're gonna slowly move ourselves as if somebody's pulling you to the opposite leg. Now you have your weight a little bit more distributed on the other one. Again, with the other leg, you can still do a little light tap so you have the extra point of support. Now, if you're gonna be in a seated position, same thing, you can still shift the entire body up to one side. All right, you can feel your other leg kind of lighten, and then we're gonna slowly shift the weight to the opposite, okay? Imagine somebody's pulling you to your right until you can go no more. And then we're gonna have somebody pull the opposite and going back to your left. All right, I'm gonna slowly stand back up right here. So keeping the weights a little bit more off. So if you're standing, feel free for that extra challenge, picking up the leg. Now you're balancing. All right, now slowly get back to that tap. And then we're gonna move the weight to the other side. Again, the extra challenge, pick up the foot. All right, again, hang on to something if you need to. All right, let's work back to your right side right here. And slowly to your left, but still keeping yourself nice and tall. Okay, how did that go? All right, now for some, we might be a little bit directionally challenged like myself, but no worries. Again, the goal is to find that weight that is shifting prominently to one side to the other. Let's try one that is forward and back. I'm gonna turn a little to the side, all right? So I'm gonna have my right foot forward and my left foot back. Again, no worries if you end up to be in the opposite direction. If you're going to be in seated position, you can still shift your weight, but you might want to lift your hips just a little bit off the chair. And as you shift back, you're going to sit yourself back in and weight more so on the chair. Okay. So two options for you. Okay. All right. So starting off in a nice and tall position. Again, my right foot is forward, my left foot is back. So what we want to do is we are going to shift the majority of the weight. Again, gradually, as if somebody's pulling you forward. Feel free to add that reach to your hand so the weight is more forward with that arm extension right there. All right, and then we're going to be slowly moving our weight back, almost like lifting through our front toe, driving our arms back, sitting back more so on our back foot, whichever that is for you. Okay, now let's pull ourselves forward, lifting through the chest and the hips. Reach forward, so we have the end point right there. And then we're going to slowly feel how our weight is shifting back as if somebody's pulling our hips back. Arms back, counterbalancing, weight is more so on the back side. Let's do it one last time. Shift your weight forward, through the knee, pull the hip through your chest, finishing off with the finger until you can go no more. That foot is still connected on the floor. And whenever you're ready, slowly shift the weight back, lift the front toe. Slowly finishing off with our hips either shift back on the chair, arms back. Slowly stand up nice and tall. Again, finding that strength from the top of your head. How did that go for you? All right. Now, we're going to do one last thing. All right. We're going to work a little bit with the tensions. Okay. Now, again, this one you can do it in a standing or seated position, wherever that's worked better for you, okay? So I'm gonna keep my hands a little bit in front of you. So sorry, wiggle your fingers a little bit, wake them up in case they fall asleep or they need something to do. All right, so what I'm gonna have you do is stretch them out as much as they can. I'm sure you can stretch them out nice and long. You'll feel that nice and lengthening from your shoulder all the way to your arm. Finish on with the fingers. Now I'm gonna have you make a big fist. How tight can you make your fist? Feeling how the tension starts from your fist all the way from your forearm to your muscles right here. Everybody, so ask the muscles. There you are. Now slowly release, stretch it out. Give a little break. All right, let's slowly grab and squeeze starting from the fist, from our forearm all the way up to our arms and shoulder, a little bit tension. And slowly release through the hands. Getting the tension from your arm, forearm, and all the way up to your fingers. All right, let's do it one more time. Slowly squeeze and grabs the best you can. Make your fist, make your forearm, make your arms and shoulder very tense. You feel a lot of strength and power in your body. Make sure you continue to breathe. And slowly release the tension and then finish off with that last release through your fingers. Isn't that all interesting? I know we kind of do these movements on a daily basis with different things that we do, but when you put your mind to it, you can see how much more that you can do and how better the sensations are throughout those movements. All right. So to wrap up really quick before we go into questions, with exercise, consistency is the key. So on a lot of the studies do recommend that either if you have the ability to attend one-on-one sessions with a physical therapist or personal trainer, or in a group class setting, you want to come at least twice a week to have the optimal benefits. Well, this is partly because the more that you practice, the better that you're gonna get, okay? So if you're able to spend a little bit more time to keep those habits consistent and keep it practiced over and over again, a lot of the stuff is gonna get a lot easier down the road, okay? And then second, if you're newly diagnosed with Parkinson, one-on-one interaction will do the best for you, partly because everybody experiences Parkinson's symptoms very differently. And in order for us to help you to address some of the deficits that you might have or some of the things you want to work towards, we one-on-one will be better able to pay more attention to your needs and also help you to problem solve, especially if you run into some specific questions, all right? And lastly, to prolong the benefits of exercise in general, if you're able to participate in a class, either again, well, probably not in person anytime soon, but virtually or on a platform, that would be the best. Because kind of like what Nate said from a few of the studies, when you're able to keep this going and going and going, not only as a routine, it will also reestablish that habit, help you to enhance your motor pattern. So down the road, you'll be able to do things a lot easier, and it's gonna be like no second thoughts. You can just go right at it. All right. Well, that's all I have on my end. Nate and I welcome any questions.
Do you guys want to stop sharing your screen and then I'll jump into questions? Because right now you get really small when you do that.
Sure.
There we go. There you both are. Well, first of all, thank you both. I really appreciate the demonstration. I know in a virtual world, Junius, it's very hard to do. And I think you did a great job of being heard and getting yourself in the screen. So it worked out very well. So thank you for doing that. So a few of the questions you'd mentioned, and again, I didn't write down who said it, so I'm just going to use you as a general phrase. You mentioned that some of your classes right now are virtual. Can you tell us how to find the virtual classes? But then you also said we do an assessment. How are you doing those assessments virtually right now so people know how to reach out to you?
Gotcha. So we're actually slowly kind of trying different things to make sure that things are working to the best of the capacity. Again, because we're at a hospital setting, so the rules and regulation that we have in terms of who we can meet in person and who we cannot are very specific. So with the mobile and fit class, that is actually considered as one of a high-risk population. And that's why we are only allowed to do the virtual sessions. So that way we can keep everybody reasonably distance, but at the same time, be able to keep them in a safe place as much as we have a platform for them to exercise. So typically when it comes to the consultation, we still have to meet in person. But what we are also trying to do is if a person is not comfortable coming in person, we will see if it's okay, we can do a phone conversation. All right, so that way at least we have a chance to talk and discuss some of the questions and concerns that they have, so that way we can establish a baseline, okay? And then when it comes to the classes, currently they are only available for people who are members of the class. So we do have a mobile and fit membership that people can purchase on a monthly basis. And then for those members, they will have access to the link that we send them on a weekly basis. So when it's time for class, they can just dial in on Zoom, and then we'll meet virtually on the platform. But I know a lot, there actually during the pandemic since March, there are a lot of different organizations around the country, besides just Wisconsin, they have been offering some classes that you can take from YouTube and a few other platforms that people provide with. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us here at Aurora Sports Medicine. And I'm sure that they can also reach out to you guys at WPA for more resources and information on the various things that are available online. So technology is getting to be a very important thing for us to continue to deliver instructions and help people.
I think we're all learning technology, aren't we? That really, if I would have told you 8, 9 months ago, we're going to do a program and you're going to do exercises on a video, you would have said, well, why are we doing it this way? So I'm sure we're all trying to get used to it and appreciate you giving us kind of an overview.
I agree.
I will jump in.
All the different organizations do things a little bit different, and this is the way that we are asked to do at this point. There will be more updates somewhere down the road, so I'm sure that we'll be able to meet back in person at some point.
Well, and it keeps changing every week. I think you hit on it. Hopefully we will be in person in the future, but we just don't know. You know, it's, if you would have told us back on March 6th, as Gary talked about earlier, that come November 20th, we'd still be doing things virtually. I don't think anybody would have believed that. So we are, and hopefully in the near future, it changes that we can do in person, and appreciate everything you guys are doing to keep people active. One of the things I think, Nathan, you talked about, you went over a couple of different exercises that are out there. When you guys do your exercise class and get people together, what are the different disciplines you're using for them when they're doing the exercise? I mean, you talked about Tai Chi, yoga, and a bunch of others that I don't remember now. What are all the different things you're using so that you're making it different and exciting each time?
I'll let you start from the therapy perspective.
Sure.
And I'll go in with the exercise perspective.
Yeah, so from the physical therapy perspective, because often that's the first place that we interact with people with Parkinson's is kind of therapy first, and then they'll move on to something like the group exercise program. So for our clinic, we have some therapists that do a lot of the big program. So the LSVT big, really focusing on that amplitude of movements and focusing on that sort of stuff. And often that's where we'll start with people is something like big or power that focus on that amplitude of movements. And then from there, taking it based on their interests. So something like Tai Chi that can be kind of good because it incorporates a little bit of that mindfulness piece too. If that's something that is of interest to the patient and they need help with more of the endurance in terms of how they're holding things, that can be a great direction to go into. And we're trying to design our exercises to meet their needs from a functional perspective as well as their interests. So it can go a variety of different directions in terms of how we're doing things. If you have somebody that is interested or had a background as like a triathlete or something similar to that, doing things that kind of mimic some of those activities that they have an interest in, are ways that we try and get kind of off of the kind of the set path of the power or the big as they start to progress so that they can get into more of those activities that really interest them. And then once they're doing very well where they no longer need that kind of one-on-one individual guidance from us as therapists, that's where it's great for them to transition over to the group exercise program.
So from the exercise class standpoint, now I cannot speak for my counterpart who runs the class a little bit different from myself. But we typically have like a standard warm-up, which is about 10 to 15 minutes long. And within the warm-up itself, it's mostly in a standing or seated position, depending on what works better for the participant. So we work a lot based on the power principle, again, try to make bigger movements as in traveling forward, traveling backward, traveling sideways. And then we do a lot of directional change after repetitions, and we do a lot of rotational stuff so we can get people activated in different planes, as that is also very important in daily movements. So we do a lot of mix to get a person ready from total body movements to start off to specific to arms and shoulders, upper back. And then we do a little bit more like specific stuff. And then we'll move into a strength based portion, again, depending on what we have planned for the day. Sometimes we use hand weights, sometimes we use kettlebells, sometimes we use towels. I know right now with us doing virtually, we try to keep the equipment a little as simple as possible. So it could be literally anything that you have in the household. So within the class, we have seen people grab the soup cans. We have seen people grab their weights, whatever they have. We have seen people grab their walking cane. Some people even grab like a half-gallon jug filled with water or half water, whatever they can handle. So in a way, size limit, and we still have people who elect not to use any props because they might not have anything that they feel is appropriate for them. So we do a lot of straight movements that are based on what they would need to do on a daily basis. So for example, one of the things that we always work on is the upper posterior, so any of the upper back stuff right here. So we do motions like a back roll, which help them to strengthen and improve their posture. We call it, in our world, which everybody knows here, it's called a lawnmower, because at some point we need to start the lawnmower to mow the grass. Or when the white stuff comes, we have to get ready for the snowblower if it's not one of those electric starts, so we get that motion going. And then another example is going back to the squatted lunges. Again, we always need to stand up and sit down for something. So we want to make sure the person know how to work on their weight shift from a standing to seated position and vice versa, again, with or without mobility aids. And then with the lunges, helping them to shift their weight forward, take a step. How they're going to do that? I mean, it's just like walking, but now it's going to be a lot more focused and engaged with certain muscle groups versus just in a normal walking pattern. And then we always have a portion on stretching, a lot of voices, and flexibility stuff towards the end. So we do hit a lot of different things throughout the hour that we spend together. Sometimes a little bit more intense, sometimes a little bit not. So we always kind of change it up, not only based on what we have planned the class. Sometimes we plan the class a little bit more specific to weather changes, and sometimes along the holidays to make it a little bit more fun with holiday themed items too.
Sounds good. I appreciate you giving a really good overview of what it is you guys do. Kind of maybe more specific question to what you see. can you talk about the common benefits you see when people are doing the exercise? I'm sure you see people come in and hopefully see some great improvements. Can you talk a little bit about that and how important exercise becomes to them in their daily living with Parkinson's disease?
Yeah, I can lead off. Yeah, and so seeing people on the physical therapy end, it's not uncommon for us to see people who, by the time they reach us, are having a lot of functional difficulties with doing just daily things. Everything from being able to safely get up and walk to being able to bend forward and have the finger dexterity to tie the shoes real successfully. And so we see a lot of improvement often, and with Parkinson's in particular, and that's why the big program, the power program, are really focused on that movement amplitude or the size of the movements, is because that's often where people are challenged, is that they feel that they're moving normally, but they're finding that their results are not normal. So you have to really focus in on helping them move bigger and with the training and the time. And it does take time and lots of repetition with those exercises. They're able to get to the point where they can do things much more normally as they remember doing. And a big piece that we're looking at from the physical therapy perspective, and it being more of a medical intervention, is always safety. Falling and being at risk for falls or having to walk differently because of fear of falling are some of the biggest factors that face these people. And so trying to get them to move in a way that they can walk safer and transition from sitting to standing safer or getting out of their bed safer are the big things that we focus on, because we don't want somebody to fall and have further medical needs as a result of that, some sort of injury.
And from exercise standpoint, I do share the sentiment about being safe. That's one of the priorities that we stress throughout each class. Is we want to make sure that not only do they know what we expect them to do and have them try to do, but if it's something that they need a little bit more assistance, they need to voice out independently. So that way we can give them additional help as needed. So I think for example, within the class duration of 60 minutes, we every now and then do have some participants who come in not feeling the best, which again, people with Parkinson's, their symptoms, they can be symptomatic throughout the day with some good times and bad times. And once they are able to go through the entire class, again, to what they can participate throughout with resting break and hydration breaks, they are able to move a lot more at ease as they leave the class. And the benefit of what they gain from the class could last for the rest of the day or even into the next day or two before they come back to class again. So I think that is a very encouraging thing for them to keep coming back to the class, partly because as much as they know that they might not feel good or they just want to be able to do a lot more stuff over the next couple of days, they can count on coming in here, get a little bit of sweat, get a little bit of movement that they don't normally do, also to have them challenge themselves a little bit more, so that way they're able to actually explore what else they can do compared to what they can or cannot do as part of the norm. And I think long-term wise, I think another example I can think of is the snowbird. So again, I'm not sure how things are going this year, but I know in the past we do have quite a few participants who decide to fly south for the winter. Some people go as early as November, some people go as late as the beginning of the year. And they will do their best to keep coming until they leave. And we have had participants, once they return from down south, they are not able to continue or do as much compared to what they have before. So once they come back more consistently, about once or twice a week for about a good month, they will be able to pick up whatever that were, I'm not going to say left behind, but whatever that they weren't able to do while they were down south, and be able to participate a lot more readily. So I think the other big encouragement is the social aspect of the class. A lot of the people come, they are literally friends with each other and a support with each other. So I literally call them, like, even if you don't have the motivation physically to come to class, at least come and join us socially and emotionally, because it just makes you having that much better feeling just by interacting with people, not only sharing the same diagnosis, but at the same time, if there's anything up and down throughout the daily life, you have somebody there for you to give your encouragement and support, or they can even reach out with an extra pair of hands whenever you need to. So I'm very thankful for the class that we have, because it's a very good support system around itself, and everybody keeps tabs on each other, and they also keep us on top of what's going on, especially with people who are not able to come as often because of various reasons.
Excellent. Well, thank you both. I think you really just hit on something really important, Junius, that I think people forget is you're not just talking about exercise and the physical, you're talking about the mental aspect and the social aspect. And I think all those are so very important for people, and really appreciate you touching on those to kind of look at the big. We're out of time. You've done a great job with the questions, so I'm going to jump out and just thank you both so much for your time today, for the demonstrations, and for taking your time with these questions.